Oh, hello again, everyone. Welcome back. Thanks for visiting once again, and it's nice to see you all. Back we are with the Focke Wulf FW190 A8, and as you can see, there's been some changes made since the last time. We've got the thing primed and ready to go, as I said in my little message, and I intend to try and display this model with the canopy opened. For now, what I've done is to tack it in with some white adhesive, so it's semi-permanent, not really quite, but you can just draw a knife under there and lever it away. Hopefully everything will be fine. So I can actually have this further back, so that there's a central runner that you can see the back of here, that the canopy would run up and down. So there we are, but all of the bits and pieces are on, as you can see, with the exception of the propeller. I'll talk about that in a little bit, and I'll also talk a little bit about the undercarriage as well, which I've got up there, as you can see. But what we're going to do today predominantly is to look at the HGW Rivet kit. So as many of you will probably know, HGW manufacture a kit of transfer rivets. Let's try and not push this around the place. Tell you what I'm going to do. I'm going to move this away for a minute, just away over there for a second, so that it doesn't get in the way, and we can carry on and have a look at this. So as I say, they manufacture a rivet set. So it's a decal or decal type rivet set that you put on in sections across the model, and I'm going to do some little details of that today and show you how I'm going about it. It's a relatively interesting thing, I think, to look at, because perhaps some of you, I'm sure many of you, will have seen these rivet sets, and some of you won't, and I'll outline what I perceive to be some of the challenges here. And I think it should be reasonably straightforward, but as you'll probably be aware, quite a lot of rivets on these particular aircraft, both underneath and above, so we'll see how that goes. But I think perhaps I could benefit everybody by explaining to some degree precisely how this works with relation to the product itself. So I mean, I can show you some of these things here. So what you can see, it's quite hard to see actually. Let's see if we can zero in on it and give you a better idea of this. I think you can just about see that there. What you can see is a rivet panel there, which is laid down onto the backing paper. So I think there'll be 3 or 4 components in this particular piece of kit, as it were. So you've got the backing paper, then you've got the rivets laid down onto the surface of the backing paper there, with some glue in between them, and then on the top of the rivets there is a plastic transfer sheet, which is again stuck on here. So essentially what happens is when you put these into some hot water, what it will do is curl up, and the backing and the rivet itself, the rivet set itself, will come away from the backing paper and retain the transfer sheet with it. You then place it onto the model with some microset, something like that, Mark Fit or whatever it's called. I don't use that stuff. I use microset and microsol, but I suspect you won't need microsol, but microset will help pull this down. Having done that, you then leave it for 6 to 8 hours or so, and then you can pull the backing sheet away, and what that does is leave the rivets in place, and there is no carrier film. Now, I think that's a rather good way of doing things, and I wondered if perhaps maybe, particularly for letters on the side of aircraft, where you are likely to get silvering and so on in between the letters where the carrier film sits, maybe this could be done this way for those kind of things. But I know that you guys will have your own ideas about this, and I'm sure that you'll give me some ideas on this in the comments. I do hope so anyway. So what we'll do is we'll do a couple of these, and then what I'll do is I'll go through where I've done this elsewhere, because you can see, as I say, I've pulled some of this off, and you can see what's happened there. and I'll look at the undercarriage as well, because what I want to do today as well is investigate the effect of painting over these rivets, because as you've probably realised, it will be quite difficult to paint over the top of these and not just completely obscure them. So I'm doing some experimentation with that, and I've done that on the undercarriage wheels. So we'll see about that a bit later on. But let's get down to it, shall we? Let's have a crack at this and see what we can do. So what I'll fit here is section 22 and section 17. Let's just bring that in so that you can see it here. There we go. So section 22 is the main wing section here, and section 17 is the other side main wing section. And I'm going to do that for a reason which will become apparent well, pretty quickly, I would think. So let's crack on anyway, shall we? So I'll just pull that out to about 0.5 mag here, and see where we go. So I'm going to do the right thing here, which is, as I said, to cut these. I didn't say that actually, but there we go. So what we'll do is we'll just cut these. I don't need to get right up close to the edge, and I don't need to cut around, shall we say, the any backing paper or transfer sheet, because the transfer sheet obviously is all over all of the all of this. So there we are. So just cut that off and move that away there. And so that's part number 17. Now, one thing you might have to be careful with is not putting the number 17 into the water, because if you put it onto the aircraft surface, it acts like a transfer, just like the other thing does. So part number 17 is the starboard wing section. So it sits on that side there, and you've got some convenient lines here. So what we shall do then is, I'm just going to move those out of the way because I may wish to use them later. I'm going to move them over there. So we've got some tissue paper handy that we can dry the decal off with, and we've got our special tweezers here. So we'll drop that in, and as you can see, the first thing it does is curl up because the water's quite warm. You can use cold water, but it's not quite so good. So the other thing that we'll do is, just see if I can balance that there. We'll get our microset here, and we'll just brush a little bit of microset onto the surface of the model. In fact, I'll tell you what we'll do is we'll just turn that through 90 degrees so that we can see what we're up to here. There wasn't very much in there, so let's fetch that out. I always seem to use more of micro set than I do sol for some strange reason. I'm not really clear on why that might be. Answers on a postcard, please. So there we go. So just dab a little bit of that on there. Put that in its little container there. They're quite natty, those things. Those I think they're 3D printed, so it's always quite nice to have that sort of thing around. So then we can just fetch out this. I'll just give it a quick slide. So as you can see, this has been in for long enough. A quick slide there means that we're ready. And remember, what I have found with these is when you're gluing them, when you're placing them, try not to lift them too much because you'll rub the glue away. So here we go, and eyes down, look in. Just drop that there, and the microset immediately spreads across the body there. And so I'll just move my box away a minute. I've got to be very careful with the pokey out things underneath, and then we can look to try and line this up. So there we go there. I think we're in the right sort of spot. Again, it's not the easiest thing to do, I will say, but once you get it set on there, it needs to go a little bit further up. I might just try and use the magnifier here just bring that down and in there, because I can probably see things a little bit better through that. Yes, I can now see that line that I'm lining up against. There we go. So that's that. That's that set up there. So I can now use a cotton bud just to push the air out of this. And you do have to be a tad on the careful side with the smaller ones of these. Right, what I'm going to do is just make a little cut there. Reason for that is so that I can get that particular section to drop down onto the surface of the model, onto that wing surface there, and we can just rub these gently so we get the air out of them. Yeah, we're about there with that, I think. And as I said, you have to leave these for 6 to 8 hours. So I've got a section here on the end sticking out and left over. So I'm quite content that that's the case, because it helps me to actually pull this off after that. That's not quite there, is it? Just pull that up a little bit more there. There we go. And I'll just roll the cotton bud over the surface here. That helps pull the air bubbles out. That means we get proper adhesion of the sheet on the panel, and then we can leave it. So as you can see, it's pretty straightforward to do. Now, yeah, that's slightly creased there. Now, we don't need to be too panicky about creases in this. I hope you can see this okay. Let's move this away. There we go. You don't have to be too panicky about little creases, because this backing sheet, or this transfer sheet, is going to come off anyway. So we don't need to be excessively worried about that. So I'm going to leave that, and then we'll go for the next one, which is number 28, as I recall. Or is it? No, 22, beg its pardon. So we can see 22 there. Let's just move that slightly forward. You can see what I'm up to here. So again, I can cut this away. So this time I'm going to cut past the 22, and then I don't anoint the surface of my priming with a number. If you do, it's nothing to panic about. You can scrape the number off, or use sellotape or something like that, and it will come away, because it is just a decal at the end of the day. So back we go to the microset. And we'll just daub some microset onto the wing section. As you can see, it's terribly straightforward. So I'm not going to do all of these panels, for you, because look, I think you know how to put decals down these days. You'll all be expert enough to do that, but you may not have seen these things going down themselves. In the past, and some of you I gather have actually got these decal sheets, and others do not, this is for the benefit of really those who don't have these. So let's just slide that away and take a grip of this corner here, and then I can just drop that straight on there. So it's dead straightforward, really. I mean, it's terribly simple. And mind the moraine antenna as you're moving this thing around. Obviously, as you know, the moraine antenna is that sticky out thing at the bottom, which will get in the way. Right, I have to go under the magnifier a minute again, sorry about this. So I just line this up. There we go. There we are. Now I just need to cut that section there so that I can get the and what I'm doing is cutting past the I'm cutting past the aileron. That's my Q-tip there, cotton bud Q-tip, you know what I mean. And then we can just dap that down there. There we go. And again, we got a little sticky out bit at the end there so that we can pull the backing sheet off in 7 or 8 hours time. All hopefully should be well. I'll show you in a minute what happens if it doesn't go as well as you perhaps might want it to. You can point and laugh if you wish, and I don't mind that. You know, I've got broad shoulders on these sort of things, so that's not an issue. So that looks okay, I think, to me. Yeah, they're both in the right place, so let's just see if we can get that to just adhere down. There we go. So those are those two panels. Now you may be wondering why I've not decided to put that panel in or that panel in there, because let's put this down a second so that I can just explain something. The reason for that is because the part number 23 and 20 will overlap on the backing paper 17 and 22, which will cause some problems with putting the rivets down there. So what I tend to do is to do 17, 22, wait a few hours, and then do 23 and 20, but I can do other things in the meanwhile, like 24 and 18 for example. I can do 21 and 25. I could do 28 and 27A, you know, those kind of things. I'm not going to do that all today, because I think once you've seen a couple of them, slight crease there, see if we can get that to, there we go. So once you've seen, you know, this done once, twice, it's I should imagine it become a bit dull, just having to listen to my monotone voice doing whatever. So anyway, let's turn this over and I can then show you how it goes when you've done it. So let's bring that out the way and then back in here. Make sure I don't move that at all, in fact. There we go. There we are. So this is what it looks like when it's done. So as you can see, I'm going to point out a couple of areas where things went slightly awry, shall we say, get my pointer here. So you can see the when you draw the backing paper away, what you clue up with is this very nicely uniform rivet pattern, which you can then paint over. But you can see in here particularly, I had a bit of a problem putting the rivets down here, because this section here, it arrives in one piece. I didn't think about this until I actually got this down, that this section here, this raised section, doesn't have this channel, doesn't have rivets on it. And you're ending up looking at putting these two things over the top of this. So I took this one up and then cut it in half and then put it back down. If you do this, it takes the glue away from the rivets, and what then happens is, come 8 hours time, you think, right, okay, I can now lift this. So you grab a piece of the paper, the backing paper, and you pull up this sheet, and hey presto, all the bloody rivets come with it as well. So this is going to be rivetless unless I can use some of the free rivets. There are some free rivets that I could put in, and I may think about doing that. This side, luckily, it stayed down, but that was lifted as well. But you can see in the corner here it's slightly lifted. But it does look quite nice. It's quite an impressive looking thing, as you can see in the light there. There's no transfer film at all, and I thought that was you know, that's quite nice. Now the question remains, what actually happens when you start to paint over it. And I thought, well, I have a couple of plans with this. So what I'm going to do with this is I'm going to use Alclad mil spec on this, and you may be wondering why. Well, that answer will be forthcoming in just a few seconds. I'm going to take that away and put it in my ditty box over there, and then we're going to concentrate our thoughts on the undercarriage legs. So what I did with these was I hit the undercarriage legs with the numbered sections here, 18 and 9, left them for a few hours and then dragged them off. I thought to myself, well, if I do these first, then this will be the easy thing. And then what I thought I'd do after that is I'll paint these surfaces here the colour I want them to be on the undersurface, and the colour I want the rest of it to be on the undersurface, to see how the rivets go. Now, the first question dancing across your lips is going to be, Zinners, what the hell are you doing painting your undercarriage, misses, yellow? Well, here's the story. I'm going to depict a captured FW190. Now, because the A8 was a 1944-1945 aircraft, I then have to go by the 1944-1945 colour instructions from the Air Ministry, and these instructions changed sometimes a couple of times a year, but 44-45 didn't change very much, and captured aircraft were painted in the specified colours for their particular use. So a day fighter, for example, would have been painted, a German captured day fighter would have been painted RF dark green and RF ocean grey in the A pattern, I believe, or possibly the B pattern, depending upon what they decided, and the underside was painted yellow. So what I've done is I've used my specially mixed roundel yellow, which is a slightly more golden yellow than the the more obvious colour. You can see the colour difference there if we zip in on this, I suspect. It's slightly different, slightly paler, which I think was a nice effect. And it's thinned 50-50, and I thought, well, let's take a look, see how this goes in terms of what the rivet detail looks like. So we have to come in really quite close to this. It's not going to play now, and I suspect Tron McConnell has the right of this, because he's saying that maybe these grids are causing me a problem. Oh, there we go, look, I can get into there. So let's see, it's lost the focus, here we go. Now, poker again I think is required here, and this is quite difficult to do because I have to be, I've gone too far. There we go. So you can see the rivets here, just about, and from arm's length you can't see them at all, but you have to magnify this up. Now, where this is painted slightly more, these rivets are slightly obscured, so you have to be really careful about how you do this. And you can see, I mean, we're 2.9 times magnified here, but you can see this. Now, the question that I was having with myself is that I've heard that if you lightly rub on these, it will show the rivets through. So I'm going to have a little go at that and see what happens, because this may be the way that we get the rivet detail visible. So you've seen me do this before with various things. Now I'm going to be very, very gentle here as I do this, and I'm just going to very gently rub and see if we can get the rivet detail to show through, and we might be able to. You never know. So I'm using the very lightest of pressure here, and this is taking a little bit of the paint off, and we'll see what happens. See, the trouble is with my roomy old eyes, it's very difficult to see, so I'm going to bring the magnifier in and have a little look. So we know where the rivets are. I'm going to try this side here where the paint's a bit thicker, and I can maybe press a tiny tad harder. And see, we're beginning to take the top surface of the paint off, but actually what we're starting to do here is to take it down to the primer. So you're going to have to be extremely careful. So again, we'll just gently rub. And that's, yeah, it's sort of not working really, from what I can see. Yeah, it's not really working very well. It's not making a difference to the paint, it must be said. And it's not exposing the rivets. I was hoping to get a sort of slightly silvery legend of the rivet here, and that doesn't seem to be working. Let's just keep beavering away industriously for a minute. Maybe we'll get there. You never do know. No, what's happening is I'm just bringing through the primer there, so I'm going to have to touch that in. So this isn't going to work particularly well. And this is Tamiya paint, by the way, that I've thinned, so it's Tamiya acrylic. The Alclad is an enamel paint, so I don't know whether that might work better, but it's much thinner than the thinness of the Tamiya paint that I've used. But yeah, that's going to be quite difficult to do, I think. That's the reality of it. Move that away. As you can see, my new magnifier doesn't creak like the old one, so that's going to be much more difficult to do. But there we are. That's what we're going to do. So the surprise at the end of this build is going to be that this is going to be a captured FW190, and it's going to be in British colours. Obviously, the 1944 guidance says that spinners are sky, propellers are black. So there we go. I'm following that, and that is the plan. So what I'm going to do then is I'm going to complete the riveting job. Which will be absolutely riveting, because I've got this stuff now and I might as well, and it's actually not a lot of work to do. And I'm then going to paint that lower fuselage surface, mask it, and then paint the top surface, and then have a little go at rubbing off the paint on the top surface, where actually nearly most people really are going to see it, and see how we go. Maybe it'll work, maybe it won't. Maybe it will take someone with a good deal more skill at modelling than I have. If that's the case, then good luck to them. And look, if you have a way of doing this, then I'm more than happy to hear from you. And we'll see what we'll see. I'm going to soldier on, and in the meantime, I'm going to sign off today and say thanks very much for your time. I hope that you enjoyed this particular video, and I hope the surprise was a good one for you. I'm quite, and I anticipate finishing this before very long, hopefully, and presenting a finished model to you guys. In the meanwhile, I hope that you have a good weekend and have some good time at your respective modelling desks. Thanks very much indeed to subscribers for tuning in once again, old and new. I noticed that the numbers are still climbing, so people are still paying me that high compliment, and I'm very honoured that you do by subscribing. What you appear to be saying to me is, look here, Zinner's old boy, what you do is quite good fun. And I'm going to spend my time watching this. So look, thank you very much everybody. I'm very grateful to you, and I hope that you continue to enjoy your modelling, and I shall catch up with you the next time I'm hereabouts. Thanks a lot for now. Take care. Bye bye.